You got to put on your lotion. Hey, everybody. Oh, just give me a second. Just give me a second here. Hope you guys are well. I have to lotion up because, my elbows are ashy and we don't want that. We do not want ashy elbows. Somebody tell me in the comments if you can hear me. Who's watching? Do we have our people on here? Wayne Prince, I see you. I see you, Wayne. Guys, tell me if I'm loud and clear. This is the downside to having everything in your office and then you have to do everything yourself. I mean, I'm the makeup guy. I'm the sound guy. I'm the light guy. I'm the guy that makes sure that my seat doesn't fall apart. I'm that guy. Silla Mecca says, loud and clear. Thank you so much. Jimmy J says, loud and clear. Wayne Prince. I have a dear friend of mine. His name is Wayne Prince. He's from Manchester. I learned not too long ago that there's a huge difference between Manchester United and Manchester City. I know I sound daft, but I honestly didn't know that. That tells you I'm not a football fan. It tells you I don't know anything about football. It's true. I didn't know. I used to think Manchester City and Manchester United were the same thing. Well, Wayne Prince says to me, no, mate, he's from Manchester City, he's from Manchester. Manchester. Okay. Hey, everybody. Just wanted to bring something to you real quick. I know last couple of days we've been dealing with something here in Zambia that has really knocked the wind out of us. And there's a story going around about a young, very beautiful young girl that allegedly killed her child. And the story that's been swirling around social media and, it's making the rounds everywhere. And the thing about this story is that, it's got different legs and it's all over the place. There's a version of the story that says, well, this young girl decided to kill her son. And this kid is so beautiful. He was such a beautiful boy. There are no words in the human vocabulary that can describe the horror, the hell, the heartache of seeing a child, an innocent child, being killed. Not only killed, but allegedly being killed by his mother. Well, one of the stories was that this young girl was destitute. She didn't have any money and she had no capability. She had no wherewithal. She had no dexterity to take care of the child. So because she didn't have any means to look after her baby, she resorted to killing the child. That's one of the stories. Another story says, no, she didn't like the inconvenience of having a child because, it meant that she couldn't go out partying. She couldn't go out living the life that she wanted to live. And so in her mind, this child was a roadblock. This child was an impediment. This child, in a sense, was an obstacle, or as Donnie Swaggart says, an obstacle. And so we don't know where the story is. I personally don't know. I know the police are investigating and the young lady is in custody. But let me tell you something very interesting about stories like this. Do you know that the tragedy of maternal Phillicide, because this is what it's called, the tragedy of maternal Phillicide or child murder by mothers, it's a phenomenon. It's a thing. There is such a thing as Filicide. Filicide is when a mother kills her child or a parent kills their child. It's called filicide. And it happens more than we think it does. I mean, in Zambia, we don't often hear stories like this. And so whenever we do hear stories like this, it sort of knocks the wind out of us. But it happens more often than you think it does. It's called filicide. And what's interesting is that when a young child is murdered, the most frequent perpetrator is the victim's parent or step-parent. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that interesting that when the police first hear of a child being killed or child being murdered, the first suspect, the parents, the mother, the dad, the step-parent, the guardian. One would think that law enforcement would assume that it was someone else. Well, the fact is, human beings, who we are, I mean, the Word of God says that the heart of man is desperately wicked. And I find it curious and interesting that the very first person that becomes a person of interest when the police hear of these cases is the parent. Amazing. And one would think that a mother's instinct is to protect a child because that's what we know. A parent's instinct is to shield a child. How many times have you heard of a woman that stands in the way of a moving truck to protect her child? The reason is because that's what's natural. The parental instinct is so strong that it will stand in front of a moving truck to protect a child. That's the way it was supposed to be. But a skewed mind leads people to do the most unthinkable things. I'll never forget the story of Susan Smith. Tell me in the comments below if you guys remember who Susan Smith is. Tell me now. Remember the story of Susan Smith? One of the most riveting stories that I have ever experienced. I mean, I was there when this story broke. The whole nation, the whole American community were broken. Now remember, you have to think back. This was before the internet. This was before Facebook and Twitter and all these labor-saving devices and gadgets. This was in the mid-90s. Well, there was a curious case of a young girl by the name of Susan Smith. She came on television and she said, and she was very distraught in front of glaring cameras and reporters. Susan Smith is a white woman, a white lady, and she went on camera and she said that she was in her car with her two children, and a black man kidnapped her children and drove off. And so she came on television and she said, please, whoever has my babies, whoever has my children, please bring my babies back. And the whole nation was gripped with fear and trepidation and worry and concern. Everybody said, how in the world can this barbaric black man do the unthinkable? How dare this man rob a mother of her children? How calloused, how cold, how demonic can you be to rob a mother of her children? Well, it came out that Susan Smith was lying. There was no black man. And the more the police questioned her, the more they spoke to her, the more her story changed. And then the police began to suspect her because they said, no, she keeps changing the goalposts. Finally, They compelled her. They said, look, we know you've done something with those kids. Tell us what you've done. Susan Smith broke down. She couldn't handle the pressure. She said, no, I killed my children. I drove my kids out to a lake. I fastened them in their seatbelt, and I pushed the car into the lake, and my children drowned. And when she was asked the question, well, why did you do that? She said, because I was dating a man that didn't want to have children. The man that I was having an affair with said to me, I don't want those boys. If you and I are to have a future, if you and I are to have anything to do with a loving, long-lasting relationship, get rid of those kids. Now, in the man's mind, he wasn't saying kill them. He was saying take them to your aunt or give them to your grandparents or somebody. But as long as you think that you and I can have a future, you and I can't have a future as long as you've got those kids. So in her mind, Susan Smith all of a sudden began to look at her children as an obstacle. She began to look at her beautiful boys as an impediment, a roadblock, a wall. How tragic can that be? Where a mother looks at a child and all of a sudden your child becomes an obstacle. Your child becomes somebody that you get rid of. And Susan Smith did that. She killed her children. The police asked her to take them where she did that. She led the police to the site. They lifted that car out of the lake, and they found those boys in that car, fastened to the seatbelt, dead. I've often wondered, what were those last moments like for those boys, looking at their mother, full and complete trust that my mother's here to protect me. But then all of a sudden you see that your mother's fastening your seatbelt and pushing the car and letting the car roll into the lake, and the lake begins to hungrily swallow that car. Can you imagine the last moments of those children? Mommy, mother, why aren't you helping us? The fear. Tragic. Susan Smith was subsequently charged with double homicide, sentenced to life in prison. To this day, Susan Smith is in custody for the horror that she did. And the Black community, they were very upset because people believed her story. You had police officers running around looking for some black man that she described. You know, Susan Smith literally sat down with the police and she described this black man. The officers, they would stop young black men that fit Susan Smith's description. Well, the black men didn't, the stories didn't they didn't match up. Those boys were innocent. And Susan Smith was guilty as hell. They sent her to prison, life imprisonment. Fast forward to today, where you hear of a young girl that has killed her son. And I tell you, my wife and I were looking at this girl and her son. I mean, this kid was so beautiful. Those beautiful eyes and healthy looking boy. The boy didn't look famished in any way. The boy didn't look malnourished in any way. Tragic. Truly tragic. There are no easy answers. I mean, we don't know what the story is. The police officers, I'm sure law enforcement, this will come out. The facts will come out. They will unravel slowly. Eventually, we'll know the truth. And just like the Susan Smith case, in the beginning, there was so much talk. People didn't know. But once the case went to trial, all the facts came out, the dust settled and the dew dried. That's when we knew what the truth was. equally in this case. It may take some doing, but eventually we will know the truth. And so I close with this: young mothers, young parents, love your babies, love them. No man is worth killing your children over. No man. No man is worth murdering your children over. No man. Love your babies. Have a good day.